The alley was dark, and Zara knew she shouldn't be there. But after 12 hours on her feet, serving coffee to demanding customers, the short putt through this part of Seoul was worth the risk. Then she heard it, a sharp crack that could only be one thing, a gunshot. Her feet stopped moving. Her brain screamed at her to run, but something made her look. Just one glance into the narrow passage beside her. 5 men surrounded someone on the ground. The victim was bleeding, pleading in rapid Korean. And standing above him, calm as death itself, was a man in a perfectly tailored suit, Min-jun. Even from a distance, his presence was suffocating. Tall, built like he was carved from granite, with eyes that held no warmth, just cold calculation. He raised his gun without hesitation. That's when his gaze found hers. Their eyes locked. Time froze. Zara's lungs forgot how to work. "Bring her," Min-jun said, his voice cutting through the night like a blade. 2 men moved toward her with frightening speed. Zara stumbled backward, her bag falling from her shoulder. "Wait, please, I didn't see anything." Rough hands grabbed her arms. She fought, twisting and kicking, but they were too strong. They dragged her into the alley like she weighed nothing. Min-jun approached slowly, each footstep deliberate. His face was unreadable, carved from stone. "You picked the wrong night for a walk," he said in English, his accent thick but clear. Zara's voice shook. "I won't say anything, I swear. Just let me go." His lips curved, but it wasn't a smile. It was something colder. "You think I can let you walk away after what you witnessed? You must not understand who I am." Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Something inside her, maybe desperation, maybe the exhaustion of a life that had beaten her down too many times, made her lift her chin. "Then kill me and get it over with. I'm tired of being afraid." The words hung in the air like smoke. His men exchanged glances, shocked. Nobody spoke to Min-jun like that, not if they wanted to keep breathing. Min-jun stepped closer until she could feel the ice radiating from him. His hand reached out, fingers brushing along her jawline, tilting her face up. "Interesting," he murmured, steadying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Then he stepped back. "Put her in the car. She lives, for now." Zara's stomach dropped as they pulled her toward a sleek black vehicle. She'd walked into the alley as one person, she'd leave it as someone else entirely, a prisoner of the most dangerous man in Seoul. When the blindfold was ripped away, Zara blinked against harsh fluorescent lights. The room was enormous, all glass and marble and money, but it felt like a tomb. Her wrists were tied behind her back, but her spirit wasn't broken. Not yet. Min-jun stood by a floor-to-ceiling window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city like he owned it. Maybe he did. "You should be grateful," he said without turning around. "I don't usually spare witnesses." "Grateful?" Zara's voice was stronger than she felt. "You kidnapped me. You want a thank you card?" He turned then, and something flickered in his expression. Amusement? Irritation? She couldn't tell. "Most people in your position would be crying right now, begging for mercy. I'm not most people." His jaw tightened. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, stopping inches from her. "Do you understand what happens to people who see what you saw? They disappear. Forever." Her heart hammered, but she refused to meet his stare. "Then make me disappear, but stop wasting my time with threats." For a long moment, nobody moved. His men watched, waiting for the explosion. But instead of rage, his lips curved into something dangerous. "You have courage, or you're incredibly stupid." "Maybe both," she whispered. He studied her face like he was trying to read her soul. Then he turned to his men. "Untie her." They hesitated. "Boss!" "Now." The ropes fell away. Zara rubbed her raw wrists, glaring at him. "Don't think this changes anything," Min-jun said coldly. "You belong to me now. You eat when I say, sleep when I allow it. And if you try to run," he leaned close, his breath against her ear, "I'll hunt you down myself." Her pulse raced, anger and fear colliding. "I'll never belong to you." His eyes darkened, but instead of anger, something else flickered there. Something that looked almost like interest. "We'll see about that," he said quietly. and Zara realized with growing dread that she wasn't just a prisoner, she was a challenge, and Min-jun had just decided to keep her. The mansion was silent, but Zara's mind was chaos. She'd been locked in this luxurious prison for what felt like days. No food, no contact, just silence and the weight of uncertainty crushing her chest. The door opened. Min-jun entered, dismissing the guards with a gesture. His eyes never left her face. "Still standing. I thought you'd break by now." Zara wrapped her arms around herself. "If you're waiting for tears, you'll be waiting a long time." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I don't want tears. I want obedience." He moved closer, and she caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something darker. Then he placed something on the table between them, a pistol. Zara's blood turned to ice. "What is that for?" Min-jun leaned against the table, his expression unreadable. "You want your freedom? Prove you deserve it. Pick up the gun. Show me you can survive in my world." Her hands trembled. "You want me to kill someone?" "I want you to show me you're not weak," he said flatly. "In my world, weakness is death." Zara stared at the weapon, feeling sick. If she touched it, she'd lose something she could never get back. If she didn't, she might lose everything. Finally, she pushed the gun back toward him. "No, if that makes me weak, then I'm weak, but I won't kill to prove myself to you or anyone." Silence fell like a hammer. Min-jun stared at her, his jaw working. His fingers brushed the gun, then slowly pushed it off the table. "You're either incredibly brave," he said slowly, "or the biggest fool I've ever met." "Probably both," she said. To her shock, he laughed. It was rough, unexpected, like he'd surprised himself. For just a second, the mask cracked, and she saw something human underneath, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Remember something," he said, his voice dropping low. "You're alive because I allow it. Don't mistake that for kindness." Zara's chin lifted. "And don't mistake my survival for surrender." His eyes flashed with something she couldn't name, but he said nothing as he turned and left, leaving her alone with her racing heart and the realization that something between them had just shifted. The storm outside was violent, rain hammering the windows like fists. Zara sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the locked door, when it suddenly burst open. But it wasn't Min-jun. Two of his men stumbled in, their eyes bloodshot, their movements predatory. "The boss doesn't need to know," one sneered, unbuckling his belt. "A pretty thing like you, wasted on death. We can have some fun first." Terror shot through her veins. Zara scrambled backward. "Get away from me!" They laughed, advancing. But before they could touch her, a gunshot exploded through the room. The bullet tore through the wall beside them, so close they felt the heat. Min-jun stood in the doorway, his face twisted with pure fury. His gun was raised, smoke curling from the barrel. "Touch her." His voice was deadly quiet. "And I'll bury you alive." The men went white. They'd never seen him like this, not even when he'd killed rivals. "Out. Now." They ran. The silence that followed was deafening. Min-jun lowered his gun slowly, his chest heaving. His eyes found Zara, who was shaking against the wall. "You," her voice was barely a whisper, "you protected me." His jaw clenched. "Don't read into it." "Then why?" "Because you're mine." The words erupted from him, echoing off the walls. "Nobody touches what belongs to me. Nobody." Zara's breath caught. Possession, power, control. That's all it was to him. "I don't belong to you, Min-jun," she said, her voice breaking. "I never will." He stepped closer, lowering the gun, and for the first time his voice softened. "Then why can't I let you go?" The question hung between them like a confession. His eyes held something she'd never seen before, vulnerability, and it terrified her more than his gun ever could. Because if Min-jun wasn't heartless, then she was in real danger, not from violence, but from feeling something she couldn't afford to feel. Morning came too fast. Min-jun stormed into his office, fury radiating from every step. "Incompetent," he spat in Korean, throwing his phone. "The deal is tomorrow, and now my African partner backs out." His men stayed silent, knowing better than to speak. The partnership with American buyers depended on authenticity, on having someone who represented the African market. Without it, everything would collapse. One lieutenant cleared his throat carefully. "Boss, you have an African woman here. Zara could—" "No." Min-jun's voice was steel. "She's useless for business." "She's your only option," the man pressed. "And we're out of time." Min-jun's fists clenched hard, his knuckles went white. Pride screamed at him to refuse, but logic was merciless. Hours later, Zara was dragged to the training room. Min-jun waited, dressed in black, a gun in his hand. "What's happening?" she demanded. "You're coming to America," he said flatly, "and if you embarrass me, you die." Her breath caught. "America? Why me?" "Because I don't have a choice," he growled. "Now pick it up." He kicked the gun toward her feet. Zara stared at it. "No." In one swift movement, Min-jun grabbed her wrist, forcing the cold metal into her palm. His grip was iron, his breath hot against her ear. "Pick it up." The weapon was heavier than she had imagined. Her palms were slick with sweat. "Now aim," he commanded, moving behind her. His hands adjusted her stance, one steadying her grip, the other pressed against her back. "Breathe. Focus. Again." His voice was low, controlled, every word a command. For hours he trained her. Guns, knives, combat, every mistake earned his wrath. Every improvement earned rare, silent approval. Zara's body screamed in pain, but she refused to break. Later, without explanation, he dragged her into Seoul's most exclusive district. They stopped at a boutique that looked like it cost more than her entire life. "What is this?" Zara asked, staring at racks of designer clothes. His eyes swept over her simple outfit with disdain. "You can't walk beside me looking like that. If you're representing me, you'll look the part." Anger flashed in her eyes. "So I'm your doll now." His gaze locked on hers, sharp as glass. "No, you're my weapon, and weapons must be sharp and beautiful before they strike." Hours later, Zara stood in front of a mirror, wearing a sleek emerald dress that hugged every curve. Her natural hair was styled in elegant curls, her beauty undeniable. Min-jun's eyes lingered longer than he meant them to. This wasn't just survival anymore. She was becoming part of his world, and he wasn't sure if that thrilled him or terrified him. The ballroom glittered like a dream, chandeliers casting golden light across the crowd. Foreign investors circled Min-jun, shaking hands, making deals. But tonight, they weren't just looking at him. They were looking at her. Zara stood beside him in the dress he'd chosen, her presence commanding attention without trying. She smiled, spoke with grace, and held herself like royalty. "Remarkable," one investor murmured. "Stunning and intelligent." Another chimed in. "She's extraordinary, Min-jun. You're fortunate to have such a partner." Min-jun's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, the wealthiest investor, a tall Englishman with sharp features, stepped forward. His smile was too smooth, his eyes too fixed on Zara. "Enchanting," he said, extending his hand to her. "Would you join me for dinner tomorrow? Just the two of us." Zara blinked in surprise, but before she could answer, Min-jun's hands wrapped around hers, firm and possessive. "No." His voice was ice. "She's not available." The Englishman raised his eyebrows. "I didn't realize she was already taken." "I'm not," Zara started, but Min-jun's glare silenced her. Without another word, he pulled her away from the crowd, his grip unyielding as he dragged her outside. The night air hit her face. She yanked her hand free. "What is wrong with you?" His jaw was tight. "Why were you smiling at him?" Her eyes widened. "Smiling? I was being polite." "Men like him don't see politeness," he snapped. "They see opportunity. They see—" He broke off, his fists clenching. Zara crossed her arms. "I don't own you, Min-jun. Who I smile at is none of your business." His chest heaved. He wanted to argue, but movement caught his eye. A group of men passed, their gazes raking over Zara's figure shamelessly. One whistled low. "Damn, she's beautiful." Minjun's blood boiled. He stepped forward, his glare silencing them instantly. Then he turned back to Zara. "Get in the car, now." Later that night, Minjun's men celebrated at an exclusive club. Music pulsed, lights dimmed, the atmosphere charged with indulgence. Zara, still angry from Minjun's possessiveness, decided to push back. When the music shifted into something slow and sultry, Zara stepped onto the dance floor. Her hips swayed to the rhythm, her movements fluid and magnetic. Every eye turned to her, including Minjun. His glass froze halfway to his lips. Zara's eyes locked on his as she danced, deliberately slow, deliberately tempting. A playful smile curved her lips. She moved closer, her body swaying with the beat, her dress clinging perfectly. Finally, she reached him. Without a word, she took his hand and pulled him onto the floor. Minjun resisted at first, his pride screaming, but when her body brushed against his resistance crumbled. His arm wrapped around her waist instinctively, pulling her close. The music throbbed between them, their eyes locked in silent combat. Zara tilted her head, her lips near his ear. "Is this what bothers you, Minjun? When I dance? When other men watch?" His grip tightened, his jaw flexing. "Stop playing games." But his heart betrayed him, pounding harder than the bass, because in that moment, with her pressed against him, Minjun wasn't thinking about business or power. He was thinking about how dangerous she was to everything he'd built around his heart. Her body moved against his like water, fluid and hypnotic. Every sway pulled him deeper into a fire he'd sworn never to feel. His hand tightened at her waist, drawing her impossibly closer. His eyes searched hers, dark, intense, almost desperate. The world vanished. The men, the music, the lights. Nothing existed but her. Minjun's lips parted, his head lowered. His breath brushed against her cheek, his mouth hovering dangerously close. Zara's heart thundered, but she didn't pull away, watching him, reading the hunger burning in his eyes. He was so close. One more breath and his lips would claim hers. But just as his mouth brushed the corner of hers, Zara shifted back. A knowing smile curved her lips, sharp and teasing. "That," she whispered, her voice like silk, "won't happen." Minjun froze. For the first time in years, the untouchable Mafia king stood stunned. His chest tightened, his pride sliced like a blade. His jaw flexed, his hands slowly dropped from her waist, his eyes narrowing with silent fury. He wasn't used to this. Women begged for his touch, dreamed of his attention, but Zara had just denied him. His voice was low, rough, dangerous. "You think you can play with me?" Zara tilted her head, her smile never fading. "I'm not one of your toys, Minjun. You don't get everything you want." Her words cut deeper than she knew, because Minjun wasn't just angry, he was intrigued, addicted, consumed. The fire in his chest wasn't just desire, it was obsession, and now more than ever, he needed her. But Zara was proving to be the one thing he couldn't have. The ride back was suffocating. Minjun's men laughed in the other cars, but inside his, the silence was blade sharp. Zara sat by the window, her smile still lingering, her posture relaxed like she hadn't just wounded the most feared man in Seoul. Minjun's hand rested against his jaw, his eyes fixed on her reflection. Her words, "That won't happen," gnawed at him louder than any gunfire. When they reached the mansion, he dismissed his men with a wave. Only Zara remained, walking ahead calmly. His voice cut through the silence. "You think you won tonight?" Zara turned, eyebrow raised. "Won what? This isn't a game." A slow, dangerous smile curved his lips. He closed the distance, his presence suffocating. "Oh, Zara, it's exactly a game, and I never lose." The following days were a storm of tension. Minjun didn't lock her away. Instead, he pulled her deeper into his world. Every morning she trained. He stood behind her as she practiced, correcting her stance with touches that lingered too long. Every night, they sat across from each other at dinner, candles flickering between them. He rarely spoke, but his His eyes said everything he refused to admit. And still, Zara resisted. She laughed when he was cold. She smirked when he tried to intimidate. She met his ice with fire. Minjun's frustration grew, but so did his hunger. One evening, he cornered her in the hallway, his arm against the wall, trapping her. "You think you're strong because you said no," he murmured, his voice dark. "But strength isn't resisting me. Strength is realizing you can't." Zara's chest rose and fell rapidly. His nearness was intoxicating, overwhelming, but she refused to look away. "Maybe," she whispered, her smile returning, "you're the one who can't resist me." His breath caught. For a moment, the mighty Minjun had no response. Her defiance was maddening, irresistible. He leaned closer, his lips inches from hers, his voice a dark promise. "Don't worry, Zara. I'll make you beg. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. You'll surrender." Her heart thundered, but she forced a laugh. "We'll see." For days, Minjun waged his silent war. Lavish gifts arrived at Zara's door. Diamond earrings, silk scarves, designer shoes worth more than her annual salary. He never asked if she liked them. He simply expected her to wear them. And she did, but not the way he expected. At dinner, she appeared in the crimson gown he had sent, her curves outlined like flame, her natural beauty radiant. Every man in the room paused. Even Minjun's hardened guards couldn't help but stare. Minjun's glass shattered in his grip. Zara smiled sweetly across the table. "You wanted me to wear it, didn't you? I hope you like the result." He didn't answer. His eyes blazed, his control fraying at the edges. The game intensified. During training, when he corrected her form, she let her hand brush against his chest, lingering just a moment too long. When he handed her a weapon, her fingers curled around his deliberately, her touch soft, teasing. And when his men gathered for business, she walked in with refreshments, bending just enough for their eyes to follow. Minjun dismissed them all in fury. That night, he stormed into her room, his voice low and dangerous. "You're playing with fire, Zara." She sat on the edge of the bed, crossing her legs slowly, her smile sharp. "Funny, I thought you were playing games." Minjun stepped closer, towering over her, but her gaze didn't falter. "You're trying to control me," she whispered, leaning forward until he felt her breath. "But what if I'm in the one control?" His chest tightened. No one had ever challenged him like this. No one had ever looked him in the eye and pushed back. Minjun's hand gripped the bedpost beside her, his lips inches from hers, his voice a dark promise. "Don't worry, Zara. I'll make you beg. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. You'll surrender." Her heart thundered, but she forced a laugh. "We'll see." For days, Minjun waged his silent war. Lavish gifts arrived at Zara's door. Diamond earrings, silk scarves, designer shoes worth more than her annual salary. He never asked if she liked them. He simply expected her to wear them. And she did, but not the way he expected. At dinner, she appeared in the crimson gown he had sent, her curves outlined like flame, her natural beauty radiant. Every man in the room paused. Even Minjun's hardened guards couldn't help but stare. Minjun's glass shattered in his grip. Zara smiled sweetly across the table. "You wanted me to wear it, didn't you? I hope you like the result." He didn't answer. His eyes blazed, his control fraying at the edges. The game intensified. During training, when he corrected her form, she let her hand brush against his chest, lingering just a moment too long. When he handed her a weapon, her fingers curled around his deliberately, her touch soft, teasing. And when his men gathered for business, she walked in with refreshments, bending just enough for their eyes to follow. Minjun Dispinal in fury. That night, he stormed into her room, his voice low and dangerous. "You're playing with fire, Zara." She sat on the edge of the bed, crossing her legs slowly, her smile sharp. "Funny, I thought you were playing games." Minjun stepped closer, towering over her, but her gaze didn't falter. "You're trying to control me," she whispered, leaning forward until he felt her breath. "But what if I'm in the one control?" His chest tightened. No one had ever challenged him like this. No one had ever looked him in the eye and pushed back. Minjun's hand gripped the bedpost beside her, his lips inches from hers, his voice a dark promise. Don't worry, Zara. I'll make you beg. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. You'll surrender. Her heart thundered, but she forced a laugh. We'll see. For days, Minjun waged his silent war. Lavish gifts arrived at Zara's door. Diamond earrings, silk scarves, designer shoes worth more than her annual salary. He never asked if she liked them. He simply expected her to wear them. And she did, but not the way he expected. At dinner, she appeared in the crimson gown he had sent, her curves outlined like flame, her natural beauty radiant. Every man in the room paused. Even Minjun's hardened guards couldn't help but stare. Minjun's glass shattered in his grip. Zara smiled sweetly across the table. You wanted me to wear it, didn't you? I hope you like the result. He didn't answer. His eyes blazed, his control fraying at the edges. The game intensified. During training, when he corrected her form, she let her hand brush against his chest, lingering just a moment too long. When he handed her a weapon, her fingers curled around his deliberately, her touch soft, teasing. And when his men gathered for business, she walked in with refreshments, bending just enough for their eyes to follow. Minjun dismissed them all in fury. That night, he stormed into her room, his voice low and dangerous. You're playing with fire, Zara. She sat on the edge of the bed, crossing her legs slowly, her smile sharp. Funny, I thought you were playing games. Minjun stepped closer, towering over her, but her gaze didn't falter. You're trying to control me, she whispered, leaning forward until he felt her breath. But what if I'm in the one control? His chest tightened. No one had ever challenged him like this. No one had ever looked him in the eye and pushed back. Minjun's hand gripped the bedpost beside her, his lips inches from hers, his voice a dark promise. Don't worry, Zara. I'll make you beg. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. You'll surrender. Her heart thundered, but she forced a laugh. We'll see. For days, Minjun waged his silent war. Lavish gifts arrived at Zara's door. Diamond earrings, silk scarves, designer shoes worth more than her annual salary. He never asked if she liked them. He simply expected her to wear them. And she did, but not the way he expected. At dinner, she appeared in the crimson gown he'd sent, her curves outlined like flame, her natural beauty radiant. Every man in the room paused. Even Minjun's hardened guards couldn't help but stare. Minjun's glass shattered in his grip. Zara smiled sweetly across the table. You wanted me to wear it, didn't you? I hope you liked the result. He didn't answer. His eyes blazed, his control fraying at the edges. The game intensified. During training, when he corrected her form, she let her hand brush against his chest, lingering just a moment too long. When he handed her a weapon, her fingers curled around his deliberately, her touch soft, teasing. And when his men gathered for business, she walked in with refreshments, bending just enough to make their eyes follow. Minjun dismissed them all in fury. That night, he stormed into her room, his voice low and dangerous. You're playing with fire, Zara. She sat on the edge of the bed, crossing her legs slowly, her smile sharp. Funny, I thought you were the one playing games. Minjun scuffed closer, towering over her, but her gaze didn't falter. You're trying to control me, she whispered, leaning forward until he felt her breath. But what if I'm the one in control? His chest tightened. No one had ever challenged him like this. No one had ever looked him in the eye and pushed back. Minjun's hand gripped the bedpost beside her head, his lips a breath away from hers. You think you can beat me at my own game? Zara tilted her chin, her smile turning dangerous. I already am. For once, Zara didn't smile. She didn't tease. She only stared at him, at the sharp jaw, the dangerous eyes, the lips she'd sworn she'd never touch. Something inside her cracked. Minjun straightened, his chest rising like he was preparing for battle. But when she stood in front of him, close enough to feel his warmth, her body betrayed her. She kissed him, soft at first, a mistake, she told herself, but Minjun froze, his breath shuddering. He pulled back an inch, his eyes wide, questioning. Then, as if something inside him shattered, he gripped her waist and pulled her back to him. The kiss deepened, fierce, consuming, a war of lips in pride and surrender. Zara melted against him, her fingers curling into his shirt, while his hands explored with hunger he could no longer cage. The bed became their battlefield. Clothes fell, walls crumbled. The untouchable Min Jun was undone, and Zara was lost in the fire she'd tried to resist. Hours later, Min Jun lay awake beside her, watching her breathe and sleep, the softness of her face, unguarded and peaceful. For the first time in his life, he felt real fear, not of enemies, not of death, but of how much he needed her. When Zara stirred awake, their eyes met. Vulnerability flashed across his face, something no one else had ever seen. "I don't want games anymore," he whispered, his hands brushing her cheek. "Be mine, really mine." The words hung heavy between them. Zara's heart stuttered. She wanted to fall into him completely, but instead she sat up, her expression hardening. "No, Min Jun." His chest tightened, his throat burning. "Why?" She stood, gathering her clothes, refusing to meet his eyes. "Because men like you don't love, you possess, and I will never let myself be owned. Haven't you taken enough from me already?" The door clicked shut behind her, leaving Min Jun alone in the darkness. For the first time, the man who controlled everything realized there was one thing slipping through his fingers, and he couldn't bear it. The night was drenched in violence. Gunfire cracked like thunder through the abandoned warehouse where Min Jun and his crew ambushed their rivals. Before leaving, Min Jun gripped Zara's face with cold intensity. "Stay in the car. Don't move. Whatever you hear, stay put." Zara nodded, but as minutes passed, the muffled shots grew louder. Each scream stabbed through her chest. Her body moved before her mind caught up. She pushed open the car door and ran toward the chaos. Inside, Min Jun was a force of nature, gun in one hand, knife in the other, his men at his flanks. Bodies dropped with each strike. His eyes burned with calculation and rage, until he saw her, Zara, standing at the entrance, eyes wide, staring at the blood-stained battlefield. His chest seized. "What the hell are you doing here?" he roared, his voice cutting through the gunfire. But it was too late. His rival, grinning through bloody teeth, spotted her instantly. "So it's true, the great Min Jun has a weakness," the traitor sneered. The traitor and his crew had been right. Word had spread. And now the enemy raised his gun, not at Min Jun, but at Zara. Time slowed. The trigger pulled. Zara's scream tore through the air, but before the bullet could reach her, Min Jun lunged. The impact ripped through his body. Burning pain exploded in his shoulder. He fell to the ground, blood seeping through his fingers. Zara collapsed beside him, clutching him desperately. "No, Min Jun, no!" Min Jun's men retaliated with absolute fury. Reinforcements stormed in. The battle turned. His enemies were cut down within minutes. But Zara saw none of it. Her hands trembled as she pressed against his wound, her tears mixing with the blood on her fingers. "Why? Why would you do this?" she whispered, broken. Min Jun's eyes, dimming but still burning with stubborn fire, locked on hers. "Because you're mine," he gasped, each word dragging from his chest. "And I will never let anyone take you from me." His head fell back, his breathing shallow as his men rushed to carry him out. Zara clung to his hand, her heart shattered. For the first time, she realized the truth she'd been running from. She wasn't playing the game anymore. Min Jun had already stolen her heart. The hospital corridor reeked of antiseptic, but all Zara could smell was blood. His blood. She sat hunched in the waiting room, her hands shaking, her clothes stained from the night. Tears streamed unchecked down her face. Her mind replayed it endlessly. The gun raised, the trigger pulled, Min Jun's body crashing against her as the bullet tore through him. "This is my fault," she whispered, pressing her palms against her face. "If I'd just stayed in the car like he said, he wouldn't—" Her words dissolved into sobs. Hours crawled like years. Finally, the doctor emerged. "He's alive. We removed the bullet. He'll recover." Her knees nearly buckled with relief. When Min-jun finally opened his eyes days later, Zara was there, her hand clutching his like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. He tried to sit up, but she pressed him gently down, tears glistening. "Don't move, please. You almost died because of me." Min-jun studied her face. No teasing, no armor, just raw emotion. He reached up, brushing her cheek weakly. "Don't say that. I'd do it 1,000 times if it meant you'd live." Her heart broke all over again. She leaned closer, whispering through tears. "Why, Min-jun? Why would you risk your life for me?" He gave a faint smile, the kind she'd never seen before, genuine, unguarded. "Because, Zara, somewhere between hating you and wanting to control you, I fell in love with you. I fought it, I denied it, but the truth is, I can't breathe without you." Zara's chest tightened, her tears falling on his hand. For the first time, she didn't fight her feelings. She didn't hide behind pride. "I love you too," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I was too stubborn to admit it, but when I saw you take that bullet from me, I knew." Min-jun's eyes softened. He squeezed her hand, his voice barely a whisper. "Then be mine. No more games, no more running." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. She nodded. "I'm yours." As dawn broke through the hospital window, Zara leaned down and kissed him, slow, tender, sealing a promise that neither guns, nor enemies, nor pride could break. For the first time in his life, Min-jun wasn't the ruthless, untouchable Mafia king. He was simply a man in love. And for the first time in hers, Zara stopped running. Together, they had survived the bullet and found the kind of love worth bleeding for. The end. If you enjoyed this forbidden love story between a Korean mafia boss and the woman who changed everything, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another passionate story. Comment below what you loved most about Min-jun and Zara's journey, and let me know what kind of story you want to hear next. See you in the next video.